Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon and Alex Lord. These last two nights against the Cubs, they haven't really meant much. I mean, yes, the Braves last night clinched the number one seed in the NL. I know a lot of people were worried about that happening. Yes, we did it with 4 games remaining. It was always going to happen. Didn't mean a whole lot though these last 2 games, but dang, I swear I'm watching these games, man, and I'm just like, you can feel October in the air. I mean, first of all, Truist Park is packed out in games that do not even matter on weeknights. They're selling out. It's amazing what Braves country can do. It was electric atmosphere, 2 great games, come from behind wins, something that the Braves haven't done a ton this year. The first one was the largest deficit. Last night, though, just kind of felt like the icing on the cake of this historic season. They come from behind. Marcell Ozuna, who's had this great come from behind bounce back last 5 months of the season, hits his 37th homer, ties a career high in homers, ties the game in the 9th inning. Then, of course, more than anything, he gives Acuna the chance to make history. He gets a single. Everybody in the building knows what's coming. First pitch, he runs 40-70. He holds up the bag like he's Ricky Henderson. He deserved that moment. I know Cubs announced, "Oh my God, how could you do that in the middle of the game?" Hey, buddy, just because you guys
can we
have
talk about this for a
records in
second?
Vietnam doesn't
Let's
mean
talk about it.
it doesn't. I mean, just an absolute crazy thing to say. I mean, this is history being made. Games get stopped. Kids get brought onto the field and they do announcements and have speeches for 50 minutes when history is made in the MLB. Aaron Judge was saying thank you. He didn't even break a record. He didn't even break a real record. He was giving a speech in the middle of the game. So these things happen. All Ronald Acuna do is hold up the bag. They replaced the bag. They continued. And did you really need didn't you want to soak in the last 2 minutes you had of being in the wild card race? Didn't you want to soak that in? Because right after it, the next pitch, Ozzy Albies ends the game. I mean, what are you crying about?
Somebody timed it. They said it was 1 minute and 53 seconds. I thought it was like 10 minutes. Like, what people are acting like this took forever. And also, Cubs fans, you can't cry about anything. That pass ball that they called earlier in that game, that may have been the worst call I've seen all year. That was clearly a foul ball. They called it a pass ball on Sean Murphy, and that was probably the worst call I've got. You don't get to cry about anything for the rest of the game. You can sit there and stomp your feet and wham. You're going to be out of the playoffs, and it's your own fault, dude. You dropped a fly ball. Like the game the other night, you dropped a fly ball, and you want to cry about, they're doing a presentation on the field. This is the lamest excuse I've ever heard in my entire life. I lost so much respect for Cubs fans over this series. They are the biggest bunch of whiners I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, it's just wild that
whiners.
It's just wild that we're complaining about the slowest professional sport taking up. Yeah, if you said it around 2 minutes, I told Chase when I walked up this morning, I was like, there was no way it was more than 2.5 minutes of like break time. Whereas like baseball in general is just so slow. And the reason why, in my opinion, they weren't mad because it took 2 minutes. They were mad because once he broke that record, it wasn't the record. It was the fact that he was on second base. Subconsciously, those announcers, Cubs fans in general, knew that game was over. It didn't matter if Ozzy Albies didn't do it. Austin Riley was up next. He was going to do it. They just knew the game was over, and they were just kind of pouting. They know that their playoff hopes are dashed. It's that simple. It has nothing to do with Ronald Acuna. It has nothing to do with the record. It has nothing to do with the Braves. It has everything to do with them, their insecurities, their shortcomings. And it's just hilarious that they projected onto Braves fans and Ronald Acuna Jr. while we're celebrating this moment. Pipe down. Like, you're not like, it's crazy that you're trying to diminish a historic moment. Yeah.
You have blown 2 massive leads. Get mad at your bullpen. Your bullpen's the one that's been letting you down. It has nothing to do with it.
Get mad at your GM that has that bullpen and I know Drew Smiley actually pitched well, but you still have Drew Smiley coming into 1-run games in the 8th inning. Like, you ain't going anywhere, buddy. You ain't going anywhere with that crap. Trust me, that guy wasn't even pitching on the 2021 World Series team, and he was on the roster. That guy's a bum. The Cubs bullpen is a bum. Once you get the starter out in any situation, they have no pitching. That's your real issues, guys. And I actually had no problem with the Cubs. I honestly like the Cubs, at least coming into the series. But the way they've complained and whined about that whole thing, I'm like, you know what? We're just going to sweep you. We're just going to sweep you real quick and enjoy your offseason.
We're going to let the Marlins in the playoffs.
Yeah, you know what? And it's your fault too. You lost the tiebreaker to the Marlins. You lost more games than you won to the Marlins. Like, complain about all those things that happened over 162 games. Don't blame the fact that history was made against you and that we took a moment to celebrate one of the greatest seasons. A moment to celebrate one of the greatest seasons in MLB history, an accomplishment that may never be broken in our lifetimes. I mean, first of all, as a baseball fan, and these Cubs fans want to talk about themselves as like they're these historic, prideful baseball fans from the 1900s, like they've been around forever. If you, as a baseball fan, can't appreciate that, I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it. That's not old stuff. That will never be broken. That is something that's never happened. It deserved a bigger moment than it was given.
He didn't break a record. He set a standard. There was no record to break. He'd already broken it weeks ago. That is the point, is that it is so historic that these guys are trying to, like, I saw somebody on Cubs Twitter with a prominent following. I won't even mention him to give him the time of day, but he said Acuna didn't even break a record. No, he didn't break a record because he broke it 2 weeks ago. He set another record that will not be.
I'm not the
It's crazy that they're trying to diminish this.
He is the record. He is the record.
If you're mad about somebody having 40-70, you're just salty. Like, that's really all it is. You're just salty. Like, that is one of the craziest achievements in sports of all time. You're just being salty. And it's okay to be salty, but you can't just sit there and just wah about it, man. Like, just be mad. Like, it's so annoying. I will say, I do want to shout out the grounds crew. Buttery smooth execution on that. Yeah. Guy brings out the new base, puts it right in. Other guy comes out, gets the old base for Ronald to keep. Both give him a firm grip and a grin. The jog right off the field, buttery smooth. They look like they had done that 100 times.
Also, like, did the Cubs fans ever really think? Did anyone really think that once Acuna stole that 70th base, everybody and their mother knew that base was going straight to the dugout to go straight to Cooperstown? Like, there had to be some sort of break, whether he was sitting there celebrating or not during it, which obviously he's going to celebrate it. That bag is coming off the baseball field right there, just like a first hit or a first home run would come. Back to the dugout right there. That thing's going straight to Cooperstown, buddy, and it's not being touched by anybody else.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Ronald just was doing this, celebrating, and Ozuna was in the dugout going like this, like, get the base, get the base. And he was like, oh, yeah. Dude. I love this team. It's phenomenal. I love this team. It feels like October already.
Yeah, the last two games to actually get back to the sport. This team actually has been playing these past 2 days like they're ready for playoff baseball. They've been coming from behind. They've fallen behind early, but they battled through some adversity, which is what they need to be doing. Like I said, this division's been wrapped up. Even though it hasn't been officially wrapped up for a while, this division's been wrapped up for a while, and it's easy to get complacent. And I think they've done a good job of keeping a little bit of intensity. You got one more series with Washington, and then, it's time.
Yeah, and just to any more Cubs fans complaining, just understand that we are starting literal scrubs that will never even make the playoff roster against you guys right now. If you can't beat, and we're spotting you 5-6 runs, like, don't complain about Ronald Acuna's thing. Complain about the fact that you can't get the job done when it matters. Complain about the fact that you're throwing pass balls. You're making errors, you're missing fly balls, you're missing throws to second. Like, all those things are on you. That's why you lost these 2 games. And not because Ronald Acuna stole 70 bags on you, made history, and they had a moment. The game was over once that happened. The momentum was there. Your pitcher was flustered. Ozzie Albies, who already had a homer and the game-tying single earlier, was coming up to plate. And if he didn't get the job done, Austin Riley was going to get the job done. You didn't lose because of a little moment. You lost because you guys couldn't execute. The lights were a little too bright for you. And I understand. It's tough making the playoffs. I remember when the Braves were trying to make the playoffs. It ain't easy. The lights are too bright for your young little squad. Pack it up, because we're going to sweep you today. Pack it up. Enjoy the offseason. Think about stop bunting, stop cheating, stop whining. You make the postseason next year. Coming up after the break, Falcons, week 3.